Most chiropractors do not realize that this problem is near as bad as it is, or that it's affecting their practice to the degree that it is. And it's a secret that most successful chiropractors, you know what, they don't want you to know about it because it increases competition. My definition of successful chiropractor, and this is, everybody's got their own definition, so it could be considered nebulous. My definition is simple. It's north of $1 million in revenue and producing outstanding patient satisfaction, patient outcomes. And here's the secret. It's that over 50% of new patients drop out after just the first 3 visits or even less. 50%. This is a massive hole in the majority of practices that exists out there. And here's the kicker. It's not due to the reason that you might think it's due to, which is poor patient care or ineffective treatment programs, although that is a factor, obviously. But it's not the biggest factor because we're talking about just 3 visits. The largest factor is it's due to a lack of a patient engagement system. So a system is something that, when implemented, is going to occur, right? It's on autopilot. It's not something that you hope gets done. If the team is trained, you are trained, and it's a system, it gets done all the time. So let me give you some credibility and context. If you don't know, I'm Dr. Chris Tomshack. I'm the developer of the chiropractic franchise industry. I'm the founder of HealthSource Chiropractic, which is the first chiropractic clinic system on the planet to hit over $125 million in revenue and in 35 states. And HealthSource is one of America's absolute fastest growing chiropractic franchises, top 2. So here's some insight. The wealthiest practices aren't those with the most new patients, although that's what the majority of business owners in general, they think, hey, I've got to have more clients. And certainly the majority of chiropractors think, I need more new patients, more new patients. Well, you know what? A plethora of, or an abundance of new patients can cover up the real problems in the practice, and those need to be addressed. The most successful practices, again, not those with the most new patients, but instead those with the best retention. So in chiropractic, obviously, when we think of retention, we think of patient visit average, or PVA, average number of visits that a patient comes in during their lifetime, if you will. So here's the big idea. Retention, or a higher PVA, equals, that's real revenue. It's massive revenue to your practice. So my statement to you is, you know what, you focus not so much on the new patients, but you focus on patient lifetime value, or LTV, lifetime value, not just acquisition of more and more and more new patients. And here's the reason why, in case you want to know the math, and you should want to know the math. A fully retained patient can be 10 times more valuable than a patient that drops off. And again, what did I say? 50% of new patients are dropping off before or at visit 3. Now, you don't need to teach complexity. Complexity does not scale. And it's very difficult. That's how you screw up a practice. There's just 3 simple systems for increasing retention. I'm going to teach that to you. So you might want to jot some of this stuff down. So here's system 1. And it's what I call the progress celebration framework. Progress celebration framework. Here's the problem. Patients drop out when their initial symptoms, when they start to improve even slightly sometimes, and certainly by 50%, unless they have motivated reasons why they should continue the program of care that you prescribe. They lose sight. They have a busy life. They lose sight of the goals in your practice. Maybe they were never explained. They lose sight of progress, of perhaps the substantial progress they've made and the potential future gains. So I teach this as, it has been taught to me as the gap and the gain. The gain is how far you've come, or how far your patients come, and the gap is how far they've got yet to go to either fix the problem or stabilize it, depending upon what's possible given the limitations of matter. So anyways, here's a solution to that. You need to celebrate progress as your patients attain it systematically, to create emotional engagement between you and the patient and your team and the patient, which is why you talk about these things, your topics in the morning huddle before you start seeing patients every day. Now, this concept, I simply borrowed it from the apps that are out there, the fitness trackers. My favorite is Ultra Human. This thing it works great. They gamify this whole business of fitness. And you can essentially gamify that, if you will, with your patients, and by using recognition to fuel commitment. So how do you implement this? Well, you track the meaningful improvements that a patient attains, such as range of motion, maybe their sleep being better, perhaps their pain scales, of course, mobility. I mean, chiropractors shine by improving mobility, and of course, returning to activity and returning specifically to the activities that they couldn't do, which is really the primary reason they came to see in the first place. So you celebrate these milestones. You use charts, photos, x-rays, verbal praise, movement screens, whatever you got, right? So even if it's just verbal praise, that works. And you link the progress that your patient has made to the future potential and how far they have yet to go. So remind them what's still possible with the continuation of the care plan that you prescribe to your patient. So here's the outcome. Patients shift their mindset from simply, you know what, I just want to feel better. They may call it getting fixed, to getting better and staying better. And retention rises with that emotional connection to the results. That's system number one. Let's go to system number two to increase your retention. Real simple. It's the milestone communication protocol. The milestone communication protocol. So here's a problem. Most chiropractic practices fail to proactively communicate at key points in the patient's progress continuum, if you will. Now, patients quietly disengage when this doesn't happen, and they quietly disengage due to unaddressed concerns. They're simply unaddressed. Here's the solution. You create predictable, structured conversations during the treatment milestones. So how do you implement this? These are structured conversations, which obviously you train so that you can master them. How do you implement it? Well, you identify critical checkpoints in a patient's care continuum, such as maybe it's visit 3, if that's where your drop-off is, if that's where they're saying goodbye. Or maybe it's week 2 or week 3. Maybe it's at their first progress exam. Or, if your office, shoots an additional x-ray somewhere along the line, whatever your system is for patient care, there are plenty of checkpoints to implement this system in. But it's definitely mid-treatment, not at the end of the treatment program, mid-treatment. And you use scripts or frameworks. If you don't like the term scripts, use frameworks or outlines. And those outlines, those communication outlines or scripts should reinforce the progress that the patient has made. And then it sets clear expectations about what's left to achieve and how we're going to get there. So when you do this, you preempt the dropout concerns, which is interesting because in many cases, you're addressing them before the patient even realizes they have dropout concerns because you're proactively triggering these conversations. So you create follow-up workflows for missed appointments as well, because that's a red flag. And a typical practice has anywhere from 5 to 15% no-show or cancellation rate, which is lunacy, right? Should never be above 5%. And when that happens, obviously the patient's not valuing your care. So what's the outcome for this? Patients feel heard. That's important today. Never been more important. They feel informed and they feel supported in their care plan in your office. As a result of that, retention is going to improve because their issues are resolved early. And as I said earlier, oftentimes before they even knew they had the issue. That's system 2. System 3, it's what I call the wellness transition bridge. The wellness transition bridge. So here's the problem. If your patient stays through with your program of care that you prescribed for them when they first came in, if they stay through, well, most patients, they leave afterwards. They're done, right? They're done. Okay, great, doc, we're done. Well, if you like wellness-based practice, or strong wellness-based practice, that doesn't work. Doesn't work for them, doesn't work for you. And let's face it, chiropractic shines with respect to wellness. And maintenance, very old school term. I'd shy away from, that's straight out of the 1980s. I'd shy away from, nobody wants to be maintained. People want to be well. There's a big difference. So terminology is important. We use wellness. And practitioners, most DCs, they don't know how to make that transition from the end of their care program into wellness care. What's the solution? Well, you turn their end of a treatment into a graduation event. That's what we do in HealthSource. We actually have a wellness wall inside every one of our clinics. And patient's picture gets put up, they get a t-shirt, etc. And there's other things as well. That's just a simple intro into the system. And then you introduce, by creating this graduation event, you introduce your patient into a long-term health optimization program, right? So you start thinking in terms of health. This is the place to go for better health. So how do you implement? You start planting the wellness seeds early in their program of care. You offer structured wellness programs that feel natural and beneficial. They should be simple. It shouldn't be this huge menu of different things they can choose for wellness. How about like a couple of things and that's it? So maybe it's chiropractic and high-powered laser. Maybe it's a chiropractic adjustment and a third-generation decompression pull. It's more than just the adjustment. And the successful practices use services like Apex Longevity, which is, of course, a DMPO to provide lasting value and savings and provide discounted care done legally. So what's the outcome? Patients shift from pain relief to prevention. That builds your wellness practice, and that builds health into their lifestyle. They see your practice as being a long-term health partner, not just a symptom fixer. So what's the proof of concept? Inside HealthSource Chiropractic, we use these systems, and our owners and doctors report higher LTV or lifetime value or case average, choose your term, more predictable revenue, stronger patient relationships, which of course when you have that, you get a lot more patient referrals, which of course is your best new patient. So it's not about convincing your patients, guys. If you feel like you're convincing them, you're going about it all wrong. It's about creating an experiential environment for your patients in your office on every single visit. That's how you do this. You exceed their expectations. And retention happens just naturally when patients feel progress, when they feel clarity, and when they feel connection to you and your team. These systems that I've just described to you, these three, are simple, they're scalable, and you can implement them immediately. So if you found this interesting, and I hope you did, please like it and share it so that others are apt to see it. And then I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care.